welcome. Would you like to introduce your name, year, course, and university?
Of course, I'm Sam Frankcom. I'm on my placement year, so I've got my final year left to go. I'm doing music and sound production at Bournemouth University.
Could you tell us your hometown?
I'm from a little village sort of near Bristol,
Okay.
in South Gloucestershire.
Could you remind us of the course you're currently studying?
Sound and music production.
Why did you choose your course?
I chose it because I just wanted to learn more about music. I discovered music, just after GCSEs. Didn't actually do it in my A levels or anything, but was playing bass guitar throughout A levels, and then sort of got into producing, and then basically just wanted to learn more.
Okay. You're now 3 years into 2 years into your course, into your placement. What have you thought about your course?
I've loved it. For the most part, I've loved it. I've learned a lot. I found out how much, time, work and energy goes into making music, and, how you can specialize in each part. But yeah, I'm happy with my course in general. Yeah.
You're now in your placement year. Could you tell us where your placement year is, what you're doing, and how you got your placement?
Of course, I'm currently working for the university. My title is Creative Technology Technical Support. So I basically look after the university studios and microphones and music equipment, and hand it out to students and test it, make audio cables and that sort of thing. And how I got it, there was an advert for it, and I just did an interview and luckily got it.
Is there any advice you'd give to students wanting to take a placement year?
Well, with COVID at the moment, it was a lot more difficult for everyone, and especially in the music industry, it's difficult as well. So I know how lucky I was. But just keep an eye out and think about what you will want to do, because it's, and also keep in mind that a lot of them aren't paid. So you've got to think about how you're going to finance your life around it as well. Luckily mine is, so I've been all right, but yeah, I don't know if I'd just do an unpaid one. It's a lot of work for no money.
Did you come from a sixth form or college background?
Came from sixth form, did A levels.
And what A levels did you do at sixth form?
I did, funny enough, drama, biology, and English language.
Did any of these subjects help you with your course?
No, not really at all. The one that, funny enough, allowed me to get into my course was biology, because they needed either a music or science background, because it was a BSc, my course. But yeah, you didn't need any particular formal music training, just some interested in it.
And what do you think the best A-level / subjects are for your course?
Well, probably the music production A-level, but I know not everywhere offers that. Music, obviously, but generally, as long as you have an interest in music and have a want to, produce and that sort of thing, and if you just listen to music a lot and you love how it is, then you're fine.
Can you tell us what it was like being technical support at Bournemouth University, the experience?
My placement experience, it's been, well, difficult because of COVID. So normally, I'd be talking and helping students and, working with them on their projects and stuff, helping them within the studios and on the mixing desks. But there aren't any students about really at the moment. So a lot of it is self-managing my own time and, keeping things organized and basically preparing for next year when hopefully everything's a little bit more normal.
Could you tell us what it's like being a staff / member and working at the old fire station, and what the job is and what the old fire station is?
Of course, yeah. So for the last 2 years, I was working at the old fire station, which is the Subu, the student union nightclub. In my first year, I was bar staff, so really late nights, really drunk people. Well, you're not meant to serve them. But we were just bar staff, obvious, handing out drinks, clearing up sick. And then on the second year, I was technical staff, which is basically just a lot of heavy lifting and moving stages around and plugging in audio equipment. And then I was being trained on the side to do some live mixing and working with bands, which was fun. But then coronavirus sort of demolished that for me. But oh well. But yeah, it was good. It's good. It's a great experience. Meet
If we
good
now go into the university you're currently studying at, which is,
Bournemouth University.
what's the best and worst things about studying at Bournemouth University? Starting off with the worst.
Or the worst things. I'm not sure there are particularly any bad things. It's Bournemouth. It's not big. It's not large, but there is a heavy student presence, which I really like about it.
This is the worst things.
The worst things.
We'll get on to the best things in a second.
Yeah, the worst things. Or I say Bournemouth itself. There's a homeless problem, which is, there is yeah, it's not very good here. But I suppose everywhere has a problem as well. But they don't tell you that on the leaflets. It's all about the beach.
Is there anything else bad about studying at Bournemouth, or that's pretty much it?
I wouldn't say so. I'm chuffed with Bournemouth and my choice of.
So if we go to the best things now, as you were saying.
Yeah, best things. There's a heavy student presence, especially in the Winton area where you live in your third and second years. And there seems to be a good community around that sort of thing. The beach is nice, but it's a beach. They do hype it up quite a bit, but as it's a beach and it can get cold. But yeah, also I just like the feel of the place in general.
What is when you say feel, can you expand for students who are curious about what the kind of vibe / feel is of Bournemouth University?
I'd like to say it's I don't know. It's everyone seems to enjoy what they do. I quite liked that, and it seemed friendly, and people wanted to help. And again with like Subu, who are separate from Bournemouth University, they're the student union. They do good work and do good events normally. And yeah, in general, I just liked the place because it wasn't too busy either. It was about right for me.
Okay. If we now go into the accommodation, where did you live in your first year?
I lived in Halls, Cranborne House in my first year.
And what was it like living at Cranborne House?
Cranborne. Well, Cranborne wasn't the best Halls. It wasn't bad. Everyone complains about it, but I think with Halls, you got to understand that it's not comfortable living necessarily. It's just a lot of fun. And you're shoved in with people your own age who've just turned 18 basically, and you're all shoved in living together. And it's a laugh. It's a laugh, but it's not comfortable. It's not your room, if you know what I mean. It feels like a plastic case where you live.
If we compared Cranborne on a line of party to study, where would you say Cranborne lies?
Yeah, it's party. I would say, it's because it's not the nicest of halls. It looks pretty clinical. There's just a lot of stuff that happens. I've got some stories. I won't tell them now. But yeah, I would say it's more party. But you go to university and use the library and whatnot to study there.
And where did you live in your second year?
Second year, I lived in a house in Winton or near a Charminster area, so it was about a 30-minute walk to university.
And what was it like going from Cranborne to your house?
It was great. It was a different experience, and I lived with there were eight lads in this house, so as you can imagine, it was a state. But it was nice. It was it felt a little bit more like ours, and a little bit more private and stuff. But we all did miss halls as well. There's something about halls where there's a lot going on, and you're in the town. You're 2 minutes away from all the clubs. But the house was nicer.
And what advice would you give to students moving from halls to a house?
Don't trust letting agents at all. Take as many photos and put them in a folder on your laptop so you can protect yourselves, because I know it's cliche, but letting agents that are just awful, and they will try and take all your money. And your deposit you're going to lose some of your deposit, if you're doing anything.
Okay. And you're now in your placement year. Where are you currently staying?
I'm still living in Winton in a different house, much closer to uni. So I'm living about a 10-minute walk from university now, okay. Which is nicer.
If we now go into the Bournemouth area, could you tell us about the Bournemouth nightlife?
The nightlife, I was worried about it because of course it's Bournemouth. You don't think about the clubs and that, but they're actually not bad.
What's the club for you?
Well, I'm a bit biased, but the old fire station, it's where most of my friends work there, and I work there, and I just love it. Lollipop Friday is something else. And then the rest of them, Toast Tuesdays are great, and I like Snakebite Sundays as well. But then there's the other clubs. Cameo's all right. It's a bit more like a classic club, bit naff, but it's always good fun. I would say the nightlife is nothing to complain about at all, really.
If we're now going to the shops, for your everyday essentials, what's that like for the area?
It's all right. It's all right. In Winton, there's a Lidl, which is everyone's sort of go-to. And then I like to drive to the Asda in town, mainly for my shopping. And in terms of clothes and that sort of thing, I don't know. It's not great here. I wouldn't say, there's a fat off Primark, which is all right. But yeah, if you don't go to Bournemouth for the shopping experience, I wouldn't say.
And if we go to the restaurants, again, what are the restaurants like for your area?
Not too bad.
This includes takeaways too.
Okay, yeah,
kind
not
of
too bad.
whole.
There's plenty of kebab shops. So, when you're walking home at 3 o'clock in the morning, get a kebab, can't complain about that. Everywhere else is good. Noodle bar is a highlight, I'd say, which is just, Oriental noodles and all of that.
What is the restaurant that a student has to try when they come to Bournemouth?
Noodle bar. It's got to be. The portion sizes are amazing. You get 2 meals out of it, and it's lovely for the price.
What's the dish? What dish do you get?
Oh, all of them. I want to try every single one of them, to be honest. Spicier the better, really.
So you talked about driving around while at university. For students who are curious about if they can bring their car to university, what kind of advice or what would you say to them about wanting to have their car at uni? Maybe we'll start with first years and then carry on.
Okay.
So for first years who want to bring their car to university, who potentially will stay in student halls or in a house.
First year, especially if you're in town in halls, you don't. There's no parking for you, or you're going to be spending so much money on it. Yeah, not first year. Just don't bother. Second year, I've had my car for this year and last year while living in Winton, and it's been good getting around to shops, the gym, and in university sometimes, depending on whatnot. Parking isn't great there, but there it is. It's here. You just got to learn to parallel park. I'm still rubbish at it, but yeah, that's what I'd say.
Okay, what general advice would you give to students about to study at university?
Get the balance right. You're at university to get your degree, yes, and you work hard at your degree and you enjoy your degree. That's the plan. But then you're also there to grow yourself and meet new people, make friends for life. And I know it's all cringe to say that sort of thing, but you've got to enjoy your time here as well as your studying. That's what I'd say.
What advice would you give to students about to study at Bournemouth University?
Bournemouth University, well, instead of just university in general. Learn to get buses correctly. You don't want to get the wrong bus because the university campus isn't in town. So especially as first years, you've got to get the buses to university and stuff. But not a lot different, really. You just enjoy it while you can. You're only here for a short time, really.
And what advice would you give to students about to study your course at university?
Have an interest in it, constantly be loving what you do, whether you're a computer producer or myself. I prefer to branch out and use hardware equipment, but just take an active interest in it and just do it. Your study time as a music production student is listening and just making music, so it should be a hobby. I'm constantly listening and making music, so just keep on doing it, really.
You chose going to university over an apprenticeship / going right into work. What path you to make this choice?
And partly because that was sort of expected in my family. My parents both went to university, and that's sort of what was always going to happen. And then also, I'm not a very handy person. I prefer learning. I quite like education because I'm a nerd. But and also I wanted to do music. Yeah, it just seemed to the natural progression of things, really.
So at this point, I let students have what I like to call a free for all. You can say what you want about what you like. You can say something smart, you can say something dumb. Literally, the floor is yours.
Oh no, that's a lot of pressure. Just just have fun. It is fun. University is short. You know, I'm lucky enough to have another year on top of this one. So just live it while you can, basically. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'm plugged in.
Amazing. Thank you.
It is. Thank you very much, Anne.